live stream today, which is going to be focusing on visibility, representation, and role models. So I'm really pleased to be joined by a fantastic panel of role models today and discussing this really important topic. So I'm joined by Lola, Dabiri, Tase Oputu, and Bio Adebayo. I don't know how to say your surname, so I don't want to get it wrong. So did you want to introduce yourself? Because I'd hate to say your name wrong.
Okay. Right. Oh, hi. I'm Adegbite, and
Brilliant.
I'm the RPS English Pharmacy Board member.
Thank you. And so yes, and Lola and Tase are also Scottish and English pharmacy board members. So thank you very much for joining us today. So we know that this year's theme for Black History Month is a time for change, actions and not words. And we want to make sure that we're securing positive action for the future to make sure we're not having these conversations about the importance of representation and visibility and role models. And it is just the norm and what happens amongst a very diverse profession. Last week, the last session that we talked about, it was about having allies and putting those words into action and reflecting and hearing from Black pharmacist colleagues about what that means to them. But today we were going to really think about our Black pharmacist colleagues, but how we can encourage people to go for leadership roles, to have that visibility, representation, and role models, and making sure that that stream continues. So we're not, we have that representation throughout every level of pharmacy. So as I've already mentioned, everybody here is part of our national board, but Lola and Tase were our first female Black pharmacists on our Scottish and English board, which was an incredible achievement for us. And Bio is our first male elected member as well. So I'm really pleased to be able to say those words and to have these guys on our panel today. So just to kind of start with the session, can I ask everyone just to tell me a little bit more about yourselves, your career journey, and what motivated you for stepping up and being elected for the RPS board? So Lola, if I start with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me right? I'm Lola Dabiri. So I am on the board of the Scottish Pharmaceutical Society. I am an independent pharmacist prescriber. I'm based in Aberdeen, in Scotland, and I also have a private practice where I use my prescribing skills to help people with their prescriptions and getting good outcomes with their pharmaceutical care. So that's what I do at the moment, based in Aberdeen, Scotland. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lola. What motivated you to stand for the RPS Scotland board?
Well, I would say my motivation basically was seeing a need. I saw a need for pharmacy going forward, for our patients to understand more of what we do. I've worked in hospital, I've worked in community and in GP land, and in my career, I kind of felt over time I kept feeling that our patients didn't really understand our role as pharmacists enough. So I thought I would want to be on a platform in which I will be able to influence going forward that understanding for, first and foremost, our patients, the patients we serve daily, diligently, and of course the other members of the healthcare team. So that's why I volunteered firstly to be the local coordinator for RPS up in Scotland for Grampian, and I got that role. So I was in that role for a while, and I'm glad to say that whilst I was in the role, there was a number of deliveries that I kind of like did. I did a number of deliveries, and more people started attending, the face-to-face sessions that we had up in Grampian at that time, and significantly more people, quote and unquote, of color started to come on board, and that was helpful. After that, I went ahead. I thought, well, I would go forward to go on the board of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, just so that I can put my voice forward there. I thought pharmacy was having a lot of changes happening, and I thought I had ideas that I could put forward to help going forward. So that was why I went forward for that role.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lola. Tase?
Thank you. So my name's Tase Oputu, and I'm a member of the English Pharmacy Board. I'm an NHS hospital pharmacist. I have been for most of my career. Worked my way through the ranks of being a junior pharmacist, junior clinical pharmacist, into more managerial and more senior operational roles. Currently work as the lead for medicines commissioning and pathways at Barts Health, which is one of the largest trusts in England. So I've been doing that. I've been a pharmacist for over 27 years now. So I've been around for a long time. I've seen a lot of things in my career. I've experienced a lot of things, good and bad, in pharmacy as a whole, in healthcare in general. I've worked abroad. I've worked in strategy in NHS arm's length bodies. I've done all sorts of things. So I've done very, very long career. So I applied to be on the board in the 2020 round of elections, and I would say that I did it. Definitely, I hear what Lola's saying about your patients and having things to say and wanting to contribute. I've also, in my spare time, I suppose, been very interested in inclusion and diversity, and more specifically in racial equity matters. I've been chair of staff networks in the trusts that I've been in, BME staff networks in the various trusts that I've worked in. And I've seen the difficulties that arise with just people's working lives and careers as people of colour, especially as Black people in the workplace as well. I've experienced and heard so much in that time. So around that time, I'm not sure if it was the year before, we had the inception of the UK Black Pharmacists Association. And I would have to say that that's a really significant thing to have happened in pharmacy, to have a network of people who look like me, like-minded people. There's a real strength in that. And I was encouraged by the formation of that network. And there were certain things that were going on. There was support and little nudges towards, putting ourselves out there and taking greater steps to represent and to sort of have our say. And the RPS, I've been passionate about pharmacy all my career. I never left the RPS. I didn't jump out when GPHC was created. So that bond has always been there. And so being able to put myself forward, I felt that I hadn't seen people in the RPS and in the board makeup at the time and for a long time who looked like me, who were advocating for the things that I wanted to advocate for. So it really was a matter of be the change that you want to see. And I'm really glad right now to be able to sit on this panel with Lola, with Bio, yourself, and Lola and I did an article a few months ago in the PJ saying that we don't want to be the last ones. We're the first, but we don't want to be the last, So that's kind of the reasons why I chose to put myself forward.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tase. And Bio.
Oh, hello. I'm Adebayo and newly elected member to the RPS English Pharmacy Board. Just following on from what Lola and Tase have said. Brief summary of my career journey. I studied pharmacy in Nigeria and came across to do the overseas pharmacist course in Sunderland, the exams in Sunderland, and was the first set of pre-regis with Superdrug. And after qualifying, initially worked with Superdrug before taking up some management roles and locum positions as well. Currently working as director of Amadeus Limited and working as a locum as well. And basically my inspiration for joining the board or applying to join the board, and to be honest, this was my second time, so shows that I didn't give up the first time. Was twofold really. It was all because wanted to do a lot more for RPS members because I've always been interested in the RPS right from qualifying. probably one of the few people that probably voted every single year, back in the day of paper votes and things like that. And even way back when we had the Save Our Society candidates in 2010. So I've really been interested in RPS politics, and I've followed, what's been happening. And obviously, one of my reasons for joining was twofold. So one was to try and offer more things to RPS members, because there seemed to be some dissatisfaction, in the basically in the pharmacy press and all that, about what RPS members thought they were getting from the RPS. And also representation was important to me, because I just felt that it would, it's actually good for RPS members to see people that actually look like them and represent them in the boards. As Lola and Tase said, we never had any black members before they joined. And before I joined, we never had any black male members. So the good thing now is that, the beauty of what I see today, which I think we've achieved, and shouldn't be underestimated, is, any black pharmacist, trainee pharmacist, pharmacy student, even people in secondary schools or primary school who are thinking of becoming pharmacists, if they look at the RPS board, they'll be like, well, there's a black man there, I can do this. There's a black woman there, I can do this. So I think that's part of the things we've got to. Thank you.
Thank you. And that representation is so important. And that you picked up on a really key thing, Bio, the resilience of having to, you stepped up again. And I think we'll draw more out of it on our second question about, along your journeys, have you experienced challenges and barriers, particularly anything racially, like any racial discrimination? And for anyone listening, who might be in a similar situation, how did you handle that? Because that can be very disheartening and really put you off from striving for going for these roles. So, Bai, I'll come back to you, because you picked up on the fact that, you stood for the second time, and the second time around you've been elected. Did that put you off, or did you, were you more than happy to go for it again?
Well, to be honest, it was a very big disappointment, because you get the phone call and then you're told you didn't make it. And for anyone that's thinking of standing, it's a lot of hard work, but it's worth doing. Because kind of the networks and everything you do. But why I felt there was a need for me to keep on going was because I just felt I didn't want to let anyone down, to be honest, even let myself down, or whoever I would represent in the future. So as far as I was aware, there was no reason not to stand again, And the thing is that it's important to note that you just keep on going till there's nowhere left. Because if I didn't try a second time, we probably still wouldn't have a black male member of the board. So, you just have to keep on going.
Mm-hmm. And have you ever experienced any challenges and barriers across your career outside of the boards, and how have you handled that?
Well, that's a difficult one, because I would just say that from my life experiences, you have what you call the indirect barriers and the direct barriers. Now, the indirect barriers are probably what I will probably have faced. And what I mean by indirect barriers is maybe applying for a position and not getting it. Now, you ask yourself, why didn't I get this position? And you think, is it because I'm not good enough, or is it that it's always hard to pinpoint? But I've never let that slow me down in anything I do. And all I would say is that whatever you do, you'd always have to be the best you can, and basically never give up. I'll just tell you a little story, which might not be exactly relevant to this question, but many months ago, when I was working as a locum outside London in basically a part of England where there were not a lot of Black and ethnic minority folk, this particular pharmacy, and I don't think I've ever worked so hard that day. Then we used to have MURs. So I must have done probably 15 MURs that day. I served on the tills. I really worked, And at the end of the day, the staff there were so horrible to me all day. And I just couldn't figure out why. Because I can understand it if I was maybe lazy, sitting down or whatever. But I've never worked so hard before. And, I served on the tills, I did everything. And even towards the end, I actually had to ask one of them, I said, why are you being so horrible? And it's like, we're never going to have you back here again. And that just threw me. It's funny though, because I was speaking to a white friend of mine about it soon after that. And I just explained to him, I said, I don't understand what happened there. And then he just said, oh, do you think it's because you were black? And and then the penny dropped, because that never came. I was just thinking, what did I do wrong that day? So little things like that, just kind of like shape your experiences in life. But you always remember that whatever you do, you just have to keep on at it and be the very best you can.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bio. Tase? Tase, can you? I think we can hear you. Oh, Lola, shall I come to you while Tase? Yeah. Oh, I can hear you now, Tase. Yeah. Can you hear me? Tase, can you hear me? We'll go to Lola, and then hopefully Tase will sort out the sound. Lola? Oh, Lola, you're on mute. No, you're on mute, I think, Lola.
I think, okay.
There we go, we can hear you, yeah.
I think that's fine now. Okay. So we're both back in now. Tase, are you ready, or do you want me to go? Tase? Okay.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I was
Okay, go.
Can you hear me? Things that have happened. It's really interesting that you just don't realise it at the time. To be honest with you, the discrimination and racism, I think, is actually rare. But it's only on reflection that you see, how long did it take me to rise up to a certain point in my career? Could I have got there faster? Those types of things, when you sit back and reflect, when you really start to ponder. I think by virtue of the fact that I've done staff nets, I hear a lot more from people's experiences, not just in pharmacy, but in across the healthcare workforce. And so I hear about some really blatant and overt racism, but I think people should be aware of the structural racism that occurs, the things that are opaque, you can't quite put your finger on it. What is it that's held you back in certain aspects? What sort of the networks that you're not part of, the in-groups that you're not part of, which give you access to somebody who could, sort of support you in your career, that sort of thing. And I think that's where we're not as agile and versatile sometimes in our understanding of the environment that we're working on, even though we think we're all working for the good of the patients. Like Bio was saying, you're working really, really hard because you think that's what you should be doing. Your objectives, your appraisal says work hard, work hard, work hard. But in actual fact, there's a lot of other things that you can't see behind the scenes that are holding you back. So, that's my experience anyway.
Thanks, Tase. And Lola?
Yeah, I would say that over the course of my career, like Bayo and Tase have mentioned, it was just on reflection that I would most of the time realize what was happened or what happened before. There were very few, very, very few times, I must say, because I respect people that would say that when they're going through such things, they document it, they write it down, and all that, so that they can report it in some way. I find that the kind of personality that I've got, once it happens, I deal with it then, and I don't even blink an eye. If I feel you've done something that I don't like, you've kind of put me down in any way or the other, I look you in the eye and tell you right away and walk away. So I don't even go to bed thinking about it because I've dealt with it then. So when I hear that people document it and they do it, I'm like, oh, that could have been a good way to do things, but I am just not structured like that. I'll just look the person in the eye and say, what you did was this. That shouldn't have been done. You don't do that to me. Please don't do it again. And then I ended there. And probably because of the direct way in which I would approach it, usually I wouldn't get that kind of thing anymore, you know.
Okay.
But of course, there were other subtle ones. Like I was once in a group of colleagues. We were giving like we were supposed to give like pep talks to each other, you know, and we were supposed to be supporting each other like a peer review kind of thing, you know. And so everyone were going around the room, and for everyone, no matter what they said, whether it was really good or not very good, I would clap. And then when I started clapping, the other people would start clapping too, because I thought, well, let's just encourage each other. And then we go around the room and everybody got clapped for because I started the clapping. And when I gave mine, nobody clapped. I'm like, oh. Actually, that day, I was actually speechless that day. I didn't say anything that day. That was one of the days that I was speechless, you know. So, but things like that. But I think I had a more direct, you know, attitude to it. If I feel you've not treated me right, I just tell you right away and just let it be.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant, thank you. And I suppose everyone has to do what's right for them. You know, that's the best approach for you, but everyone feels they should handle it how it's best for them as well. But that whole piece about not really knowing what's happening, I know I've definitely experienced that in the workplace. And now I reflect back and think about all the things I've heard, you know, not wanting senior teams saying, you know, they don't want another timid Indian girl as a pharmacist in the and at the time you think, oh, that doesn't sound right, but then what can you do about it? You know, so it definitely is a universal experience. I suppose moving now onto a bit more of a positive element. You know, we are talking about visibility, representation, and role models, but who have your role models been for the profession? And how did having them in your life impact your drive and decisions to go for senior leadership roles? So I'm really interested to hear who's been your role model. So Tase, I'll come to you first.
That's a hard question, to be honest with you. I think there's been some really visible black and brown people in pharmacy who I've seen in senior positions. I have been really inspired by people who are part of our UK Black Pharmacists Association, to be honest with you. Diane Asheru, the work that she's done with the pre-reg network, Elsie Gomez for setting it up and keeping it going in spite of so much adversity in her lives. So yeah, I've also had some really important allies around me. Sam Quay, who is a co-founder of Pharmacy Technicians of Colour, definitely has been someone who's shown me the power of allyship and being heard and encouraging that. I think it's important for us to look around the people who are being positive, whether they are from an ethnic minority background, whether they are black, whether they are white, who helps you to raise you up, you know, in those times when you're feeling down, when you're not sure actually if is it because I'm black, you know, those sorts of things that are sort of creeping into your mind to help you to navigate your way around the environment, the work environment, the professional environment, anything that's coming at you. Those are the people who I find to be really inspirational to me. There are people like ourselves who are sitting around at the moment, this panel. I would say the work that we are doing, the positions that we hold actually are, I call them catalyst positions. You know, like I said, we may be the first. I mean, the work that you're doing at the RPS is amazing. We didn't have that before, but the growth, in terms of what we are doing, how we are representing, the things that the diverse views and opinions that we bring might not necessarily be specifically for the Black professionals, but just us saying them will create change. Yeah, so that's the whole thing, isn't it? We're creating change. We're providing momentum. We bring a richness of opinion, of thought, all sorts of things to what we do. So us in ourselves also inspire me. Though we people around me are always my role models as well. I've seen definitely over the last few years the early career pharmacists who I've seen who've been really inspirational, because they've made me realize that what we are doing is really important, and it is creating change for them in their careers. So they are coming up and they are being outspoken. The Black Pharmacist Collective, Black Pharmacist Initiative, Adana, who did all that amazing work at her university. All of those people are role models for me. So I'll stop now because, go on and on and on.
Brilliant. No, that's great. Thank you, Tase. Bio, how about yourself?
Well, Tassia has reeled off a whole lot of role models I have as well. So, but I would love to mention Elsie because, well, there's a long history between what Elsie did, and to be honest, if Elsie hadn't written, that's Elsie Gomez, the president of UKBPA, if she hadn't written an article, I think it was 2018 in the PJ, which I read, and I was so impressed that someone could actually come out and put themselves out there at the risk of everything just to explain their story. Something I didn't feel I could do, and a lot of people as well keep things like that. They'll keep it in because they'll fear of reprisal. So on reading that article, I emailed Elsie because I was just so amazed that I thought I need to get in touch with this person because this person is an inspiration. And lo and behold, down the line, the UKBPA was formed, and here we are today. So Elsie definitely is one of my inspirations because it just shows you how if you believe in something and you're ready to almost like sacrifice yourself for the cause you believe in, then the sky's the limit. So another role model I have is Mark Koziol, who is the chairman of the PDA. I've been following his career right from way back with the peppermint water case, and Mark has really been so passionate about all things to do with pharmacy, informing the PDA and everything he's done. And recently also his medicines to I know it's a PDA venture, but he's so instrumental in it, where they've tried to get medicines to Ukraine, all that humanitarian effort. So for someone that gives so much energy, I just feel that I wish I could be like that, where it's not just, using your pharmacy as an advantage to basically help people wherever you can. So, that's, and the other ones Tassa's mentioned, I'm sure I could talk a lot about them as well, but I'll give Lola a chance.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bio. They're great role models. Actually, everyone that's been mentioned is incredible. Lola, how about you?
Well, I would say that for role models, depending on the season and depending on the time, I'm usually inspired by different people. However, the people that inspired me the most are people that tend to look past the profession and look at the person that they're dealing with and help individuals that way. So I would give an example of a young man. He was head of pharmacy in a health trust that I went to work in some years back as a locum. So I get to this, I went to, it was like some hours away from home. So I was supposed to be getting accommodation for myself, and I knew that I was going to take care of my own accommodation. However, when I arrived in the place, the accommodation that I had booked was very dodgy because I had booked it without knowing the area. So it was quite dodgy. So I called home and told my husband, it's dodgy here. Like, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I'll sleep for tonight, but I'm going to mention something at work tomorrow. It was that dodgy. Anyway, so the next day I mentioned it at work, and one of the pharmacists came to me and said to me, you know what, you need to say something to the head of pharmacy. Okay, I'm like, really? What should I say to him? He said, anything, just tell him. But I didn't really want to go up to him to say that to him. So I kept quiet about it. But then eventually I now heard from some doctors, some trainee doctors in the same hospital where I was working, that they got accommodation, so, and that I should ask the accommodation people for accommodation too. So I called the team. I said, I'm a pharmacist. I've just arrived from so 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 place. I'm told that doctors get accommodation. Could I have accommodation too? Because I'm having a challenge, getting it. And they're like, no, we're sorry. Pharmacists don't get accommodation at all. I'm like, oh, okay. So I go back. This time now I was encouraged to go up to the head of pharmacy. So I went to the head of pharmacy. Well, before I went to him, someone else said, he's not going to do anything. I said, I would try. I would at least say something. Anyway, I went up to him, but it was so interesting that immediately I told him, within minutes, my accommodation was sorted. Yeah, and I felt that he had heard what happened to me. He cared about me, not just as as a pharmacist, but as a person. He was concerned, that I was in dodgy accommodation. He cared for me as a person, and that was really really helpful for me. And those are the kind of people that really inspire me. Interestingly, I'm at a conference at the moment, actually, in Glasgow, and he's here speaking. I haven't seen him in years, but he spoke today, and I walked up to him, and I didn't remind him of it, but he remembered me, asked me what I was doing now, etc. I told him, and he said something remarkable. you know He's also leading a trust now and all that. He said something remarkable. He knew I was a prescriber then. He said to me, he said, Lola, guess what? Now I've just done my prescribing course too. And that shows the kind of person he is. There's so many leaders that they're not going to bother to do the prescribing for one reason or the other. They're already leaders, way up there, But this person, and he's telling me, Lola, and he was almost looking for a pat on the back, which was fine. And I gave him a whole, not just one pat, a million pats on the back. And I thought to myself, this person is someone that is inspirational. He's not only a leader, he's humble, it's so much more than any. So that's one person. And the other person is Tayo Arikawe. The first time I met Tayo was at I think it was at a PTA meeting, actually, in Birmingham. I sat in the room and I listened to her story, and oh my God, it was so inspirational to me. This is someone, that had come to the United Kingdom. She told her story that day, so I can tell it too. And she had applied for a job, and she didn't get it. Afterwards, she went up to the person that didn't give her the job and asked why she didn't get the job. And they told her, because you don't have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K kind of thing. And she wrote everything down. And she proposed in her mind that in the next year, I'm going to get all the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And that was what she did. She meticulously crossed out every single thing on that list that she was told she didn't have. That kind of focus. She was so focused. She got it, and now I'm sure you know her name, and I'm sure a lot of people know her name. She's a name to be remembered now in pharmacy, and that's very inspirational. So she's one of my role models, and of course I must mention Elsie too. She's done a good job. Good job to Elsie.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lola. That they sound like incredible people. And I think that focus, that drive clearly comes through everybody that's been mentioned. So I'm just really mindful of time, and we could talk about this. I could talk about this all day. But one thing I suppose we haven't really drawn out exclusively is, why is visibility, representation, and role models important? We have kind of touched on it, but what makes it so important to encourage other people? So Tase, I'll come to you first with that question.
So it is important, and it just seems like such a no-brainer, isn't it, that if you can see it, you can be it. And I probably didn't pay enough attention to that as an early career pharmacist. All around you, I think things have really changed in the last 2 years, whereby we see people of color, we see Black people as main lead characters on programs. We see ourselves on adverts, even clothes, fashion, hair, everything is there now for some reason. You know, that what happened in 2020 with that whole you know, stemming from, I would say, from COVID and George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter, it became very obvious to people that we weren't represented and we weren't visible. Yeah, so being visible and represented, if you can't see it, you can't be it. You wouldn't think that you could aim that high because there aren't people there who look like you. And people might think that, why, you're a minority, why should you be visible and represented in these higher places because you're a minority? But I would say that we're not just a minority, we're an integral part of society. Yeah, so that means that we should also be an integral part of every single layer and strata that there is of whatever you're part of. So your organization, the area, the geographical area that you live in, we have a wealth of patients who are incredibly diverse. You know, I live in London, so, you know, in London, in a rural part of England, there are still people of colour. We're everywhere, maybe not in so many numbers, but we're still there. And we need that, we need people to, one, either be representative and seen, or that people have that cultural intelligence, you know, the ability to understand some of the aspects that we all experience in different ways, to support us in our everyday work, which is healthcare, delivering healthcare, and also addressing inequalities within healthcare as well. So visibility and representation, for me, it's a no-brainer. It's part and parcel of everything. Stop.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tase. Lola?
I feel visibility, representation, and role models, they're very important because it's the foundation for the future, really. Because if Black people don't, there's what is called like the mirror effect kind of thing. If you don't see someone that looks like yourself up there, unconsciously the mind is just going to say you can't be there, because there's nobody that looks like you that is there already. So that is what it is for me, that for us to have a future that will be diverse, a future that would have the benefit of different perspectives, the future that would be able to utilize the different perspectives from different cultures and from different value systems, and put all of that in a mix to have a society that is successful. That is what, you know, visibility is there for. So we must continually contend for it. And I use the word contend because it's, you know, we need to contend. So it's not going to come easy, but we need to stick to it and keep moving forward one step after the other to ensure that at every point in time, visibility and representation is always forefront on what we're doing. Otherwise, the future is going to be very boring. The future would not deliver quality for the society in itself. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lola. And Bio?
Yeah, so following on from that, well, visibility is very important, but it's also important, reason why we put the three things there: visibility, representation, and acting as role models. Because visibility on its own, without the other two, is probably not enough. Because, I mean, as we've seen with the present government, and visibility on its own in some cases is not enough. But it's important, for instance, in pharmacy, it's important that depending, regardless of what body we're talking of, whether it's the RPS, the NPA, PDA, it's important that at the very top levels, you have that visibility of not just, well, every kind of like color or whatever you can think of. It's important to have that visibility, but it's also important to have the representation where any barriers that are faced by certain groups of people are actually looked into. And a lot of the time, that can only happen where you have that visible representation there. And that ties in with being role models as well, because if you're visible in a high position, it's not just enough being there, but you have to be able to represent everyone, that you're there for, and also be able to bring people up as well. So people that aspire to be where you are, even if you got to the very top, you should look at that. What are the barriers you're having? So I want to bring you up so that you can achieve what I've achieved as well. So it's important we look at all three together. And I mean, things are improving, but they can always be better.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bayo. And just to end, it would be great to hear from everybody about, if anyone who's listening, if they're thinking about going for board or going for a senior role or going for a role that they're kind of putting off, what a piece of advice would you give them? So, Bayo, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll just say go for it, really. And don't be put off if you don't make it the first time. I always say you can only get better, to be honest. So just keep at it. And yes, it's hard work, but worth it in the end.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tase.
I would agree. And
I'll come back to you, Tase. Lola? Oh.
Can you hear me?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No,
Lola?
I was just
I can. Yeah.
And just to say, go for it. I would say get yourself a bit of a rounded knowledge and experience of pharmacy as the profession as well. So you've got that background knowledge behind you about policy. Talk to us, reach out to us. I'm always willing for anybody who can get hold of me, definitely DMs and email me, whatever, come and have a chat to find out the types of things that we are looking at and responding to. I know shadowing via listening in on board meetings, the assembly meetings, those are all open access. So please do to join in, basically be part of what's going on in the RPS. There's all sorts of channels to be able to be part of it so that you can get a really good understanding of what the RPS is about. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tase and Lola.
So I would say go for it. Be courageous. Do your best. At times, if your best is not enough, just keep going. Like Bayo said before, I had to stand for election twice too before I got onto the board. And important for you to know that the good that you can do, it's worth it. And enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. Take care of yourself on the journey there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lola. That's great advice from everybody. And thank you very much for everybody listening. And a final thank you to our panelists today for taking the time to join us. And just to say, we've got a couple of more things for Black History Month. Hopefully there'll be some profiles coming up on social media, but also you can revisit this. If you just call the end of it, it'll be on Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube. And also our other panel session that we held is on social media too. So just a final thank you to